Welcome to the Jaybefaunt channel. I am your host, James Faunt Leroy. So good to see all of you guys here on this beautiful Friday evening. It is Friday, and that's typically not my day, but I am so glad to be with all of you here. Today is October 3rd, 2025, and you guys are watching the Jaybefaunt channel. I am also part of the Revolutionary Blackout Network, so you can find me there on Tuesdays for the Sabby and JB show and Sundays for the JB show, and regularly on my channel on Tuesdays at 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. If you guys have not already, please go ahead and give a like to the stream. This helps me out very much to be able to reach more people so that we may be able to inform, inspire, and encourage as well. So thank you very much for that. Also, if you guys would like to, you guys can join my Substack at jaybefaunt.substack.com. This gives you email notifications whenever I write any articles, upload any clips, or we go live just like this. And also, if you guys would like to submit any questions and have me video answer your questions, or if you guys would like me to react to any videos that you see that you think I'd be interested in seeing, go ahead and go to QBounty at qbounty.com/JBFaunt. So we got that there. Good blanket hello to everybody that's joining with me today. I seem so happy to see all of you joining. But as always, whenever I have a guest, I want to be very respectful of their time because they're taking time out to talk to me and also to all of you. With that being said, let's take a look at the thumbnail and what we're going to be talking about today. And we're going to get right straight into it. So today we have Briahna Joy Gray will be joining us. We'll be talking many different things in all things, things liberation, being an independent media, and some other things that I wanted to get to as well. But I'd like to introduce former Bernie Sanders press secretary, as well as host of Bad Faith podcast, also journalist and writer, and her face card, just like mine, does not decline, Miss Briahna Joy Gray. Thank you so very much.
Thank you for having me. What an introduction.
Our face cards do not decline. Hello, we can get in anywhere. Anyways,
I don't know that I'll claim that one, but I appreciate the sentiment for sure. It's lovely to be here with you again. It's been a while.
I back you up. I'm your wingman. So first of all, it's not typically the first question I ask, but I think it's relevant. We're almost completely through 2025. And as we have seen within this year, especially with a lot has been going on, and like my sister Savvy Sabs always says, 2025 is going to be live. How are you actually doing in the scope, not just the political scope, but also in relation to how the world is operating? And I know that the second anniversary of October 7th is going to be on Tuesday. How are you doing?
I mean, it's pretty difficult to, keep the faith, as I implore people to do at the end of episodes when, humanity has demonstrated that it has no bottom, it seems, and to have to contend with the reality of what so many folks are not only willing to tolerate, but be willing to implement. Those in power who are continuing to litigate this genocide, the people who are leading the ostensible resistance party, who offer very little in the way of resistance and are again and again willing to gamble away electoral victories and would rather shepherd in Donald Trump and all of the repression that we've seen over the course of the last year, rather than simply support an arms embargo against Israel, for instance. So, it's difficult. And with all that Trump is doing to infringe on people's speech rights and to spirit away immigrants and American citizens and green card holders alike, and the sort of complicity of so many folks who are willing to revise their ostensible commitments, the purported commitments to free speech when their guy is doing it, it's very difficult to watch. It's been difficult to watch so many white leftists, and I mean leftists, not just liberals, sort of go out of their way to identify with Charlie Kirk after he was murdered in a way that I've never seen them do with any number of victims of police violence or the whole Daniel Penny, subway fiasco in New York. So yeah, it's a hard moment to have faith in humanity, generally speaking. I will say on the flip side that I really enjoy the community that I found at, by meeting people at pro-Palestine events and Free DC events and things like that. And that's a constant balancing trick. And we were talking about having just exercise before coming on here. I think running helps. I'm cooking meals and eating what I want to eat, and sort of like acting like this is the last time I'm going to be able to have steak because of the FDA and things falling apart. So just trying to enjoy the simple pleasures of life as long as the pleasures of Western modernity still avail themselves to us. So yeah, it's definitely difficult. It's a balancing act.
Yeah. And it's been a balancing act for me, to be honest with you.
How are you managing?
Short little story. I was up early this morning, and my mother lives with me, and she knocks on my door. She said, "I think there's somebody sleeping on our back porch." And so I hurry, I grab my things, and then I grab my phone. And for anybody who is a tip for anybody who ever thinks that something might be about to go down, especially when it comes to police or something like that, don't press record, go live on a social media platform. Because then if people are watching, then they can also screen record just in case. So then nobody can erase it from your phone because it's already out there. And so I went live on Twitter this morning to see if something maybe had went down, or maybe if the person was homeless, I can be like, hey, this is not the place. And I completely understand. I was ready to, if that person was hungry or whatever, I was ready to grab stuff out of my cupboard, give it to them, be like, look, for the safety of, my family, I can't have you on my back porch, and, things like that. Right. And so then I was prepared to do that. Nobody was there except for a backpack and a pillow. That's all I saw. And there was nobody of my family, the backpack and the pillow. And so this reminds me of when I was walking, because, sometimes I walk to my doctor's appointments. And as I was walking past the bus stop, behind the bus stop was a woman sleeping under covers. And in the area that I live in, it's more of an economically depressed area. And so there's a interesting thing. It was spoken about by Dr. Joy Gray, where she did a lecture on what's called post-traumatic slave syndrome. I'm not sure if you're familiar with that lecture, but it was a very profound lecture. It's about 90 minutes. She goes over the history and the pathology of what has happened, not just Black Americans like ourselves, but also the pathology and how it has affected the minds of white people in this country over the years. And so one of the things she talks about is the trauma that's carried over, because we may not experience the trauma, from the outset, from first person, but from second person and third person, we may experience trauma of seeing somebody go through something. And many of us are experiencing second and third person trauma. Many have been seeing this for years. A lot of us talk about what happened on October 7th and the Holocaust going past that, but also what happened before. In many of our neighborhoods and many of our families and friends, we have been experiencing these secondhand traumas that have been happening to us over and over. And so it feels like it's coming up to a head right now. And it feels like some people's heads are still in the sand because it's the comfortable place to be, instead of acknowledging, hey, this system is not working. We have to do something. But the part that scares them the most is actually doing something and not doing the same old thing that we've been doing before, is doing something new, because people are resistant to change, because it's like, I don't want to go somewhere I've never been. And so the problem is that they are going somewhere they've never been, and mostly white people. I'm going to be honest with you, because a lot of them have never been to where people like you and I have been, or people in our community have been, because they've been somewhat shielded. I say somewhat because it's not limited to all of them, right? But they've been shielded in that way because it hasn't reached them yet. But now the system, whether, you know, if you want to call it corporatism, capitalism, is now looking its sights on them and seeing, not only are we going to exploit them, but we're going to subjugate them just like we did the others that we have historically in the past. And that's what I see bubbling forth. And I'm hoping that more people will be brave enough to say, you know what? I don't know what's on the other side, but we have to try. That gives me faith, but at the same time, I'm cautiously optimistic about the future. And I do have some friends and comrades that are a little bit more pessimistic than I am.
What makes you cautiously optimistic? That enough people are sort of increasingly affected by the problems of the world, that they're willing to act than they might have been before?
I feel like I'm cautiously optimistic because we have no choice but to be. Because otherwise, human existence ends, right? Human existence does not move forward at all. Because if the powers that be, I like to call the parasite class, has their way, then the subjugation of everybody else will result in the not just the spiritual death, but also the physical death of everybody around them. So then who's left? Well, then it comes down to them. But then if it comes down to them, then they're going to subjugate each other and to their own destruction. Mm-hmm. And really, in order to save ourselves from that destruction, I have faith, because the will of humanity is to fight for a more dignified life, because we just won't take it. I don't know if that's a sufficient answer.
No, I was just curious. It's not like there's a right or wrong there, I think.
Yeah. But one of the things that I wanted to touch on is you mentioned some people who may be white on the left that have found some identity with someone like Charlie Kirk, who was assassinated a couple weeks ago. And I saw and reacted to your video with Zedjelani, and I was frustrated, to say the least.
He's not even white.
Well, here's the thing. Internalized white supremacy is a thing. And some people who even look like us have it. With that being said, how do you feel like, how do you feel is the best way for those of us who may be Black on the left or marginalized on the left to convey to others who may be in a more privileged position that it's almost like they have to have a come to Jesus moment in a certain way, where it's like, as the Ancient One in Doctor Strange said, it's not about you. How do we do that in such a way where it doesn't make them feel defensive, but makes them feel, oh, wait, we have to get out of our own way so that everybody can have liberation?
I don't know. I don't think that there's much. I don't think those people are going to be persuaded. And I don't think it's really a good use of our time. I think the reality is that's why you have to have, as much as the white left really doesn't want to prioritize identity politics, and maybe they shouldn't, but we have to. Because at the end of the day, just like we're always trying to persuade Democrats to be willing to withhold their vote for the Democratic Party in order to get them to listen to them, closed mouths don't get fed. I don't think we'll persuade anybody to care about our interests, to care about Black lives. I think if they want us to be a part of the coalition, then they have to provide X, Y, and Z. But I don't know that I think it's particularly useful to try to persuade folks to understand the inherent sort of diminishment of Black people that is embedded in a lot of their opinions. Like it was nothing new after Charlie Kirk. The phenomenon of having well-meaning non-Black people, and I don't think it's white. It's because everybody thinks they're better than Black people. I don't enjoy saying that. It doesn't make me feel good to say that. But I've just seen this play out for my entire life.
It's a hard truth.
Everybody think there's a hierarchy, and everybody thinks they're better than Black people. And liberals are people who think it's impolite to say that they think they're racially superior to Black people, or who will allow that there's some kind of socioeconomic driver of disparity. But at the end of the day, the reason why, something racist will happen, and then a bunch of well-meaning liberals will say, but I don't understand why this is racist. And then you'll just swap out the word Black with literally any other race, and suddenly they can see the racism. That's because they didn't see it when it was Black, because they believed it to be true. The racist statement felt true and unobjectionable when it was Black people implicated in it. And it's the same with Charlie Kirk. It's the same people who were happy that Jordan Neely was killed on the subway, even though he didn't lay a finger on anybody, and who thought Daniel Penny was justified in killing him. They don't call that murder. Right? They don't say, I joked when I was live streaming with Leslie Lee III the other day. He said something funny about, are people, as we're calling it, I read an article about how Assata Shakur did politics exactly the right way. And I was like, I have to steal that. I'm going to tweet it out. And I did. And there were a bunch of people who responded but Assata Shakur murdered somebody. And I know that that's disputed, and, I'm not, but even conceding that point, they don't care that Daniel Penny murdered somebody. They don't care about all the people that get murdered in wars. They don't care about all the murders that they think are justified in the lives of the killed that they don't think have value. George Zimmerman murdered somebody. All these people murdered somebody, and they're celebrated. Kyle Rittenhouse murdered 2 people, 2 white people, and it doesn't matter. So that's a long-winded way of saying I'm not especially optimistic. I mean, there's right-wing racists that are what they are, but there's also, as we saw, liberals, leftists, and our peers who kept saying explicitly, I see myself in Charlie Kirk. And the sympathetic read of that is, okay, they're also pundits, so they're quite literally professionally situated along Charlie Kirk. But I'm sorry, I'm a pundit. That doesn't occur to me. You can say, yeah, I don't want to get killed the way that nobody wants to get killed, without explicitly identifying with him in that way. I frankly don't even. I mean, we've been watching all of these journalists get killed in Palestine, and while certainly the leftists have been, covering that and upset about that, I don't know that I've heard the leftists who said, I identify with Charlie Kirk, say I see myself in those Palestinian journalists in the same way. They're sad about the Palestinian journalists, but they're not somehow seeing them. Those people have kids. Those people had dreams. Those people had a certain way they like to make their coffee in the morning. Those people are living their lives with the same value and import as you do in Charlie Kirk. But I think everyone has to really sit with why. It's an uncomfortable realization, but people have to really sit with why they are particularly moved when someone who is affluent, someone who is white, someone who is quote unquote supposed to be safe from these things is killed, versus someone who's, should never have really bet on having much of a life anyway, because we're used to people like X, Y, and Z getting killed.
I'm sad that I agree. It hurts, because the thing is like, if you see yourself in someone like who has an ideology or a view like that, that is a lot of internal work you have to work past. And one thing I think it is important for people who are white on the left to realize, and some people may go, well, we got to just focus on class. We got to just focus on class. I'm going to tell you this right now. Back when the AFL was in its early stages in the early 1900s, they were discriminatory towards Black workers. They were a union. And it took the CIO to, welcome Black workers in, for Black workers to actually have a union, because to the white members of the AFL, Black workers were being paid less, which means undercutting the wages of those Black workers. If it was all about class, then they should have been united completely together. Unfortunately, it doesn't. And here's a hard truth that some people especially people who are white on the left, have to realize, that there are subclasses within the working class. I bet you, everybody who's watching right now, if you can safely, close your eyes. And when you close your eyes, I'm going to say one thing, and I want you to note immediately the first thing you think of. Working class. Did you picture a white man in a hard hat? You didn't picture a Black woman that's working as a barista? You didn't picture somebody that has blue hair, that's working behind the counter at Wendy's with a septum piercing? The problem is that a lot of times we treat part of white supremacy and capitalism, in my view, is that it puts one group as the default over everybody else. You have to be brave enough to not be the default. That's what I think. And the problem is that a lot of times they'll say, we see ourselves in Charlie Kirk. And I'm like, okay.
Yeah, I agree with you. But I would also add that I think that a lot of the folks identifying with Charlie Kirk, I mean, like Zed, for instance, he's not white, but I do think it's a class. I think that identification was in part on class lines, right? And to the extent that I share a class with Charlie Kirk, I mean, I wish I had all those millions, but never mind. But to the extent that I, broadly share a class with Charlie Kirk, maybe my failure to identify with him is because of my race. But other people who don't have something to interrupt that sense of identity along class lines, like I think that it's both. It's both that's driving people, because people who love and care about Palestinians don't talk about them in the same way, because they're occupied population with limited resources prior to October 7th, obviously. And it's not the same. I think people see Charlie Kirk. He uses the same toothpaste as me. He shops at the same store as me. He has kids I think that they really see him as like them. For reasons that include but extend beyond race. And someone like Zed, I mean, I don't know. I don't want to sort of imagine, and I'm not trying to hypothesize about what motivated him to be so reactive in that conversation. But I do think a part of it also is, and this is big with Ezra Klein, a desire to show how willing you are to be gracious towards someone politically different than you as a way to win credibility with an audience that you're jealous of. And Ezra Klein kept saying this, he's got a great audience. I wish I had his audience. Look what he built. I'm envious. He said, quote, envious of what he built. And this has come out, if you read through some of his recent interviews, Ezra Klein keeps repeating this refrain. And I think it's not quite so crass and basic as, oh, I want to like take his audience. I want to like get a piece of the pie. But it is like, I think I will seem like the serious adult in the room. Like I'm taking seriously the need for Democrats to grow the coalition if I am willing to be gracious to these people in the hopes that they will see me as credible. When, by the way, they won't. But I mean, there are reasons why folks in that audience might be interested in you, but just saying, hey, I don't mind your racism isn't the thing that's going to get them on board. It would be offering them something perspective, like an economic policy.
Yeah.
But we all know that Ezra Klein's never going to do that. So he defaults into, well, if I just pretend that like I'm a cool kid too, like I'm cool, I can take a joke. You're like, it's like a pick me. It's a pick me. They're like a girl. They're like a girl who's like, I don't have a lot of girlfriends. I prefer to hang out with the guys. They're less complicated. And you're willing to put up with a bunch of like misogynistic statements because you think it makes you like better than all the other girls. What's that Taylor Swift? She wears short skirts. I wear sneakers. Like that's what Ezra Klein is doing. And the sad part of it is it's not even going to work. The shift only goes in one direction. You move to the right to beat them there, and there you stay.
Yeah, and that goes with them into how they view policy, and what's done, to other groups in the United States, or what's absent to help other groups in the United States, and it really goes towards that. A side of individualism as well, because somebody like a Charlie Kirk is very individualistic, and it's like, okay, so you saw his individualism, so is that something that you think that you want to emulate as well? And look where individualism has gotten us. It's gotten us to this very point. That's kind of interesting because I was watching a video earlier. They were comparing Henry Cavill's Superman in Zack Snyder movie compared to David Cornswell's Superman that was done by James Gunn. And he broke it down. And I don't think this guy is that much on the left, but he broke it down very honestly. And he said that Henry Cavill's Superman was more of an individualistic Superman, versus a David Cornswell's Superman is more of a collectivist Superman, able to show his weakness, and his greatest strength is him being a human, versus Henry Cavill's Superman was greatest strength is that he was a god. And so it's like, do some of these guys see themselves within Charlie Kirk because they see that, oh, he was able to be independent by himself and not need anyone.
That's not even true.
I know. And that's the crazy part. It's not, but at the same time, it's the fantasy. It's the superhero fantasy. Like only I can actually achieve these things on my own, which it's a farce, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
But I'm hoping that maybe some are listening and they'll take for it and put ego to the side, because one of the biggest things that harms the left, a huge point, is ego. And Asada Shakur actually talked about this very frankly in her book.
What did she say?
She actually critiqued the Black Panther Party about misogyny and ego that existed within the party. Did they do many great things? Absolutely. And there's a lot of things that we should emulate. But at the same time, what kills a lot of movements, especially on the left, is ego. And sometimes we think of ourselves more necessary than there is to think. And this also means that we will think that our ideas and our thoughts are better than others, even though the people who may give us a kind critique are on the same side as us. And so this is why I think it's important for us to practice more humility on the left, especially when it comes to people who maybe more marginalized than us. And this doesn't just go, between white and black. This can go between neurotypical, neurodivergent. This can go between cis, hetero, and straight, and LGBTQ. This can be between male and female, many different ways. But we have to see ourselves in the people who may not be exactly like us.
I did see that Ryan went on Van Lathan's podcast with Rachel from The Bachelorette, which I started listening to and I'm kind of enjoying a great deal. And they were getting on him about his Charlie Kirk statements, because I think Van listens to Breaking Points. And he's got his politics are, I don't know if you're familiar with him. He used to be on TMZ, and then he's the one that got in that big kerfuffle with Kanye West. And I think he was like,
I've interacted with him a little bit on Twitter, and he said some stuff. I'm like, oh, he's interesting.
You can tell he's been like getting the lefty education. I think it's in large part because he's watching Breaking Points, but he was frustrated by, Ryan Grove's take on Breaking Points and had him on. And Van and Rachel were like going in on Ryan, like respectfully, but like Van doesn't mince words.
Wow.
And I thought it was a very good comment. I was thinking about asking Ryan on myself, but then I listened to that and I was like, well, Ryan's already gone through the ringer. And I do appreciate Ryan's willingness to submit to those kinds of conversations. Obviously, he and I had one over Force the Vote. But I don't know. This is why I'm like, I don't know that there's really any point in trying to persuade people, because I really like and care about Ryan a lot. But if Ryan is in a position where I don't think that he really grasps this, and he's such an important ally and an important reporter and all of those things, I don't want to diminish him at all. Yeah. Like, is it really worth it? If we can't convince Ryan, then what's the point? Like, and like, if we even have to be in a position to persuade Ryan, like, what is even is this the best use of our time? And like, even, is he going to did he like leave that interview and then like change his perspective? No. Even after, he came on with me and we talked about Force the Vote, and he kind of made some important concessions, but it's not like he went back and was like, actually, yes, Force the Vote was correct, and I'm going to make that known whenever anything like this comes up going forward. So I don't know, like at one point, like on one level, it's like we all compliment Ro Khanna for showing up on our shows. But like, at a certain point, like I think we have to ask ourselves, is he getting more out of like having credibility for showing up than, without ever having to be accountable to the positions that we're frustrated with him over? Like, it's very much a borderline case, and I think it's going to become increasingly unclear as he runs for president in 2028.
Maybe. Yeah, maybe. I don't know. You're kind of going into my next question that I want to ask in regards to politics, though.
I don't know why I'm totally out of focus. My apologies. What is that about? What is happening? Oh, okay.
There we go. Yeah. One of the things that I did want to ask, so recently Eric Adams has suspended his campaign. Oh, hell, he dropped out the race, y'all. Basically, let's just tell it like it is. He dropped out the race. And my question is, do you think that there's going to be a 2020 moment where they try to consolidate around Andrew Cuomo to defeat Zoran Mamdani? Or do you think Zoran Mamdani may eke out a win by a landslide, or would somebody like Andrew Cuomo win? Because I don't see the Republican winning. What is your thoughts on that?
Yes, they're going to try to consolidate around Andrew Cuomo. Mm-hmm. Of course they are. Mm-hmm. Whether or not it'll work, who's to say? My concern, actually, is that Zoran has already achieved AOC status. Liberals love him, which is on one hand nice, and on the other hand means he is in no way beholden to the left anymore. So to the extent that it was his strident defense of Palestine, and even more so the use of the phrase globalize the intifada, that generated 50,000 volunteers, Now he can still, I believe, get those volunteers and more, including a lot of, more liberal, normally normie dim minded people, even if he makes concessions on that same point and others. And I don't know if you saw his appearance on The View recently, where he was, as always, incredibly articulate. It's just supernaturally able to parry bad faith questions and be so warm and generous and appealing. And also volunteer that he, condemns Hamas and yada, 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 with an answer about October 7th that I found personally to be unsatisfying and disappointing. So that's just to say, I think that he's likely to win because his popularity is sort of like beyond what can be limited by a smear campaign from the right or critique from the left. But who it is that wins and how he governs is, I think, up in the air, and regrettably something at this point that I think we have very little to do with as the left.
Gotcha. I'm going to offer a slight bit of difference because I don't think he's reached AOC status. I do think that he's more getting to 2006 Obama status at the DNC convention.
What does that mean for you?
It's dangerous. That's what it means to me.
What's the difference between, because my point is just that they're so popular with liberals that it doesn't matter what the left says about them anymore. So what do you mean by, how does that differ from Obama 2006?
Obama was a rising star. Now, I mean, at the time, I wasn't really deep into politics at all. In 2006, I was, busy being an evangelical, so we weren't, involved in politics barely. But seeing how he was this big rising star that everybody absolutely loved, that he was very articulate, that he was very warm and inviting and present in the moments, and able to also dodge or turn around, questions that may be done in bad faith. It's similar to a Zoran Mamdani, in my view, to a point where those are the ones you need to look out the most for. The very eloquent, the ones that seem very natural.
So you're saying in terms of how he is, you think he's more like Obama. I was describing what his status is publicly, right? When I'm saying he's like AOC, true. I don't mean to say that AOC is like similarly articulate or anything. I'm saying the point is that it's someone who came out of the left, unlike Obama, but someone who came out of the left who got elected because of the work of the left, right? DSA door knocking and organization, but who gets so big that they no longer need the support of the left to be the biggest fundraiser in Congress the way that AOC is. That's the analogy I'm making, not about how they are substantively, but about what it means in terms of our opinion as leftists and how much accountability to the left they'll ever have. And Obama never had that relationship, coming out of the left in that way. That's all I was saying.
Okay. So I was going the same direction, but not in the right lane. Sure. My apologies. But I do see some on the left still saying we should give him a chance. And I get it because there's nobody else running. And I fault the third parties for not running the candidate.
Well, it doesn't matter, give him a chance. What does that mean? It doesn't mean anything. Because we don't have a choice. If I were living in New York, of course I'd vote for Zoran. But that's not, he can do whatever he wants to do at this point. He can say whatever he wants to say. For him to lose support, he would have to while out so crazy that I think that there's, I just don't know. We all just have to wait and see because there's nothing we can do about it. Because
that's true. Yeah. Yeah.
And then, to be critical of him, even at this juncture as a leftist, is to risk your own sort of credibility, right? Because it is true that, like, I think he's no longer talking with the aggressive, do not give a fig attitude that made it so many of us like really adore him. That I'm not going to Israel. My name is Zohar Mamdani, Zohr, doing the little spelling thing. It's like, you better learn my name. The globalized intifada of it all of that. So he's no longer doing that. But like, is that sufficient to say, I don't trust him? I think more so than other people, even he has a plausible case for saying, hey, I got to say what I got to say on The View. What did you want me to do? Like, the audience was with me. I was already winning, and for me to argue against that, which I have, but for me to say, well, you're up 20 points, that moment on The View was a moment for you to explain to the, like, they're already with you. So use your cultural capital, your social capital, to actually call out the lies about beheaded babies or whatever the hell Alyssa Farah is saying to you. And, call out Joy Behar when she, for some reason, is like, why, or I guess it was Whoopi Goldberg, who was like, why are you so against rich people? We're not the ones that are hurting the city. What happened to every billionaire is a policy failure. Like, that was a moment, arguably, potentially, to like give a lesson on why it is that we do have a class politics. But reasonable minds can disagree on that and say, Briahna, what do you want him to do? Burn down The View? And so, that's why I feel like, I have my skepticism, but I'm just going to sit here and see how it pans out. And I hope for the best, because no one can deny he's incredibly talented. And he's very well brought up, and people have been citing things that his father has taught and said. And, I'm hopeful that those lessons are well learned.
I have my skepticism, strong skepticism. I think I will, I guess it is just a wait and see. But I want to be wrong. I'll put it that way.
Yeah, always. I wouldn't be wrong. I would have loved to have been so embarrassed as I was screaming that Kamala Harris was never gonna be for real about Gaza, like was never gonna support an arms embargo, was never gonna, like, I would have loved to have been so wrong. I would have loved, when I was saying she's gonna lose because of Gaza, I would have loved to have been wrong, not because she won and then was still a genocide heir, but because she won because she actually flipped on Gaza. Like, I would love to be wrong about everything, because being right, I have my accountant the other day. I talked to him because, of course, I file late because that's how I live my life. And we hadn't spoken in a while, and I have also been worried. He's Jewish, and I didn't know if he was Zionist, and I was not trying to have that conversation with him because I like him, and we talk about my job when we get on the phone with each other. And it came up. We had to have a call, and he brought it up. And, he was like, I guess do you think it's a genocide, Briahna? And I was like, I don't think it's really a subject of debate at this point, Seth. And he was like, yeah, I think I have to concede it is now too. And I was like, all right, welcome to the party. But and then he was like, he called my mom. She's him too. And my mom calls me like, what did you say to Seth? Because he was so depressed. And it's because I was on the phone with him. He asked me, and I told him. He was like, well, how do you think things are going to go? And what is the world looking like? So I told him. And it wasn't a happy story.
But it was an honest one.
Yeah. But I'm just saying, I don't like being right about stuff. And I hope that I'm completely wrong, and Seth has nothing to worry about.
Me too.
And we're about to enter the Pax Romana, and it's going to be fantastic.
Yeah. That's something that I'm also, that's something I'm contending with right now too, because there's a lot of contention right now and I think a lot of it's online, but there is a lot of people that may still be kind of on the fence because they're surrounded by people who may be steering them into a different direction that is more pro-Israel than it is than it is, pro-liberation. The reason why I say pro-liberation is because it's not just about Palestine. It's about, all settler colonial projects that are constantly going on around the world. I mean, we literally live in a settler colonial project right now called the United States. So it feels like, we're still contending with that. And, I'm hoping that more people, I think definitely Israel has lost the narrative war, and I think they're trying to get it back, but it's just like,
they're not going to. That's part of what the darkness is, right? The darkness is Israel has lost the narrative war. Like 8% of Democrats think we should have continue to send weapons of any kind to them. Like it's cooked. They're cooked. It's over. But it doesn't matter. What is? If I have learned one thing in the last 4 years, if there's one lesson I would like to get across, because one way that liberals do, like sheep herding and fool people into thinking that like there's like better hopes on the way, is to say like we just need to convince people. If you listen to like Pod Save or something like that, what you'll hear them say is it's an uphill battle, but we just got to convince more people of X, Y, and Z. Incorrect. Everybody already agrees on all the good things. Everyone already agrees on Medicare for all. Everyone agrees on taxing the rich. Everybody agrees on a living wage. Everybody agrees Nancy Pelosi shouldn't be insider trading. Everybody agrees.
Yeah.
And the pretend everybody agrees on Gaza always, obviously. But the grift is convincing good liberals that they just got to walk around with a sign and like make people aware. This is also like the 501c grift. Like we're making people aware of this issue. Like, let me get money to like raise awareness about. Let me have a foundation to raise awareness. Let's have a dinner to raise awareness. Everyone's aware, and we all agree. But that's like a exit ramp from actually doing anything. And so
right.
I would say like everyone agree, but this is what's dark. Just like Medicare for all, okay, we won the awareness battle about Gaza. It took 2 years and almost 1 million dead people, but here we are. Everyone's aware and mad at Israel. But the sick part is that just like everyone liking and wanting Medicare for all, there is no relationship to whether we get anything like Medicare for all. Everybody hating Israel bears no relationship to American foreign policy. So there's like this thing where obviously we've all read the stories about all the different ways that they're investing in. They bought TikTok, they bought CBS, the bot armies, all the things. They paid $8,000 a tweet to these influencers, all the things.
Yeah.
I think very little that has to do with wanting to persuade people, but it's to maintain the fiction that it's okay that we live in a democracy, that there's enough diversity of opinion out there that it doesn't make the government seem insane for choosing to continue its policy toward Israel, its friendly relations with Israel. It's to provide plausible deniability for the government. It's not to persuade anybody any more so than like, trotting out Buttigieg to say Medicare for all who wants it is a genuine effort to sell a certain kind of a healthcare system. It's just to make it look like there's some reflection of the public interest in our political system. And that's the darkest part. The darkest part is knowing that there is no democracy, that it doesn't matter. We all circulate these polls. I do it too. It doesn't matter what the polls say. The polls are useful in making the argument. And when you occasionally get a platform to argue with one of these people as to why they suck and why Ezra Klein shouldn't be trying to leverage trans people or abortion rights to win when he could just talk about Gaza or healthcare. Like, it's useful rhetorically to get people to understand why the Democratic Party is cooked and they should leave it. But it's not evidence that anything's getting better. It's a tool that we can use, but it's not the poll shifting are not evidence that magically politics is going to shift too.
So what do you think it will take in order for action to actually really happen?
You have to not vote for it. You have to divest from these people. And also, I'm sorry, like, engage in the kind of disruptive protest that has already been made it's already illegal, but they're making it harsher and harsher penalties for doing so.
True. Yeah.
And like, I can't, like, I'm not going to sit here and tell someone to go, but it's going to be civil disobedience, and there's going to be enormous penalties up until including death for civil disobedience. That's like sitting in roads and tying yourself to pipelines is going to get you a decade in prison and or killed.
Mm-hmm.
But honestly, like, if everyone does it, right, then the penalties for the individuals are fewer. But the government knows that this is where it's all heading, which is why they've been building cop cities and slapping protesters with RICO charges for passing out flyers. And I'm sorry, someone told me I've been pronouncing her name wrong, but I actually don't know the right way to pronounce it. But throwing Jessica Resniak, the woman who tied herself to the oil pipeline, in jail for 9 years. And by the way, look at the news. Look at how right and left there is like a passionate hatred of anybody who would throw soup at a painting. Right or left, I was watching Morning Show on Apple TV with Jennifer Aniston for reasons that I cannot defend because it's not a good show. But there was like some throwaway line. They're supposed to be like First Amendment, intrepid journalists, good liberals. There's like a throwaway line about protesters. Like she's trying to get across town in New York, and there's like an oil protest, and they're like, oh, they're stopping traffic. Why don't they protest where the action's happening? Why do they have to stop traffic here? Golly. Liberals and conservatives alike act like stopping traffic is like the dumbest Antifa strategy that ever happened. And then there was a throwaway joke about like kids who throw soup at paintings. They're trying to vilify even the most innocuous, nonviolent forms of disruption. Liberals are doing this on the liberal channels, on MSNBC. And then they want to turn around and be mad when someone on Fox says, oh yeah, you should hit, or Donald Trump says, oh yeah, you should hit people with your car when you see them in the road.
Yeah.
Okay, but you might not have said you should hit them with your car, but you rolled your eyes and mocked them in your stand-up routines on late night shows and all of this crap, and in your liberal television shows. You're vilifying them too. And then I won't even get into, because I'm going to do an episode about this at some point, I won't even get into that new Paul Thomas Anderson movie, which pretends to be revolutionary and spent the first 30 minutes making a mockery of those involved in revolutions and shows absolutely no interest in what they're fighting for or the people they're fighting for.
Wow. Yeah. I'll be honest with you. The channels, especially corporate media, and I would argue some who call themselves independent, and these would be the ones from that Wired article that, were getting paid, that are getting paid to, by a dark money group from the Democratic Party. They're not there to battle the right. They're there to battle the left. Mm-hmm. They just don't tell you. Because it's like, they'll grandstand about the right, but it's almost like a hate from under the undercurrent. It's like the real person that they really want to be against is anybody that's trying to make a more dignified existence for everybody who is especially marginalized. And it just goes to show, like, and it's like moving into a liberal neighborhood, and particularly a white liberal neighborhood. And it's the moment they see somebody that looks like you or I, then it's almost like, oh, well, hey, well, I voted for Obama twice. It's kind of like Get Out. And it kind of feels like that. And it's like, but what if we say something that is, radical, that it's not even really radical, it's more rational, but it's about doing action that combats the system, not just sloganeering. And they're like, oh my God, you can't do that because you got to go through the proper channels. And I'm like, the proper channels are rigged.
Stand in the protest zone.
Look, I'm gonna call a member from RBN. I think it was Nick. He said, if you have to protest with a permit, it's just a parade.
I agree. I remember going to one of those No Kings muckety mucks last fall. Was it last fall? Yeah. Mm-hmm. No, it must have been the spring. I just remember that it was a little chilly. I didn't have to wear a coat. And yeah, it would have been the spring. Obviously, Trump wasn't president yet. And we were like just doing like laps around the Washington Monument. And I was like, what are we doing? Like, if all of these people just moved into Constitution Avenue and blocked traffic, like, I don't strategically, I don't know what, I haven't studied the roadways of DC and, whether this is the best place for us to block the road or anything. But like, it would feel like we were doing something if all of these thousands of people just shifted 50 feet to the right and got into Constitution Avenue, a big road in DC, and shut it down and just like stopped traffic.
Yeah.
If senators weren't able to get to their meetings, if people weren't able to get to Congress, if, Whole Foods trucks didn't drop off their Jeff Bezos groceries at the grocery store, then you could maybe make a demand. If DC couldn't function, if commerce can't operate unless a demand is met, then we're cooking. Then we're cooking. But they know that, which is why you'll be sitting in jail. You'll be sitting in jail for a decade for having plopped your ass on the asphalt.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. Like, there has to be real action on the ground, not just marching with signs and flags and going, we want more. And it's like, oh, and it's almost like the parasite class and their cronies in Congress go, oh yeah, okay, that's cute. You guys want to go to Capitol Grill for steak and potatoes? All right, let's go. It's like they're not even. It's like. Have you ever seen a parent with a very rambunctious toddler that starts screaming and crying, but they're so used to the toddler that they can talk over the toddler and act as if the toddler's not even there? That's how they treat us. But what happens when the parent gets up? When they hear psh, and glass shatters. That's when the parent goes, oh no. Glass may have to shatter. And I'm not saying in a literal sense. Well, I'm not condoning violence. But my thing is that an inconvenience, a strong inconvenience must be made, in order for it to happen. Trust me, I read Blood in My Eye by George Jackson. Okay. So a strong inconvenience needs to be made in order for people to really see that it's like the heart of the empire is in Washington, but just because it's in Washington doesn't mean you can't do something to any one of the arteries. It could be shipyards. It could be at trains.
Yeah, I mean, I talked to Chris Smalls about that exact issue when he came back from his flotilla ride, because he was, he rightly identified like all of these dock unions as being potential ground zero, the way they've been in other countries for imposing a constructive arms embargo. And how the union leadership, he thinks, kind of blocked him out. I'm paraphrasing him. You should go and listen to the episode. I don't want to misrepresent him. But basically, like, he was being sort of ignored suddenly by the union leadership who loved him when he organized an Amazon union, because that was the next logical step. And none of them were willing to go there. And the position of the unions was like, their obligation is to, wages and healthcare of the rank and file, and not to the interests of Palestinians on the other side of the world. And they didn't want to have to like contend with that publicly, or really reckon with the members of the rank and file who very much wanted to do solidarity actions with Palestine.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely.
I mean, this is where we are. And I don't know, business unit, this is why there's a part of the left that I think puts kind of no longer justified, who puts too much faith in unions as a way to sort of resolve the problems of the left, or to advance the interests of the left, because if that's the historical model that we have to go off of. But like, union capture is real. It's not just a density issue, it's a capture issue. And it's not that we shouldn't try to be, growing union density and all of that, but realistically speaking, That's not happening anytime soon because of what the leadership's desires are and their willingness to support whatever Dem, to not have any accountability, to not do international solidarity, to not support general strikes, to not even entertain a conversation about them, like all of it.
Or they give the game away too early and they're like, oh, we're going to have a general strike in this year on this day. And it's going to last this long.
Are they
and it's
doing
like,
that? Are they even saying that much?
Sean Fane!
Maybe a general
He
strike.
said, I think it was in 2028, they're going to be doing one. I think it was on
that is a little familiar.
May or something like that. But he's talking about, we're going to be doing a general strike in 2028. And I'm like, why are you giving the plans away to the parasite class? Don't do that. And then don't put a time limit on the strike because they're going to wait you out. I'm just like, dude, what are you doing?
Yeah, it is. I mean, I don't mean to be like such a downer, but like that is what it. I mean, it's not like it's not like I don't know. It doesn't feel like an abstraction of what needs to be done. It's not like a mystery what needs to be done. It's just like things you're not allowed to say on the internet, and also things that. I mean, that's what civil disobedience is. You break. It's the flotillas. You break a law. The law. I mean, they're not even really breaking a law because, you know, they have every right to sail to the shore of Palestine. It's Israel that's breaking the law. But you know, at least you're breaking the norm. Because not all laws are just. Not all norms are just. Not all rules are just. And you have to be willing to go to jail and suffer the consequences for breaking a law to prove to the public and to make your case to the public that the law is unjust. And we don't have. You know, if you put paint on the door of JP Morgan, they write you up in the New York Times, a liberal paper of record, like you're a terrorist.
Yeah. And it's, you know, I think, I honestly think that more action needs to happen and it needs to go beyond unions. I did have one more question, but I promised you 45 to 55 minutes, so I really don't want to push the time.
I'll answer it quickly.
Huh?
Go ahead and shoot. I'll answer it quickly.
Okay. So thank you very much, by the way. You're being very generous.
No, that's a pleasure. I'm sorry for being such a Debbie Downer.
No. I wanted to talk to you about being a content creator and on independent media, especially being a Black content creator. First, I want to give you your flowers because one of the first people who I saw in left independent media besides you was also Nico House, right? To be able to buck the system and say, absolutely not, we're going to go in a way that's different than what the others have. Because we've been down this road and we're not going to go, has been an inspiration to people like myself. I know those of us at RBN, my sister Savvy Sabs. There's many of us that have been looking at people like you and Nico House, you know, as prolific in pushing, you know, a space for us to be able to tell our own stories with our own type of anecdotal experience while living within the empire. And I think it is important that our voices, because people will talk about, oh, that's a liberal thing, representation. It's like, it's not completely a liberal thing because you need to have people who have that experience to be able to convey what is really going on within the empire. And I think you've brought levity as well as grace to it. And I just want to thank you for that because, and, you know, we may have disagreements on, you know, a couple of things because not everybody agrees on everything, but you're honest, right? And you're honest and I'm gonna be honest with you with this one. You're literally like one of the most tactful people in independent media, period. Because I'm just like, God, she has the patience of a saint. And so I just want to thank you for your contributions to independent media, especially, while being unapologetically Black. So I appreciate it.
I appreciate you saying that. It's very kind of you to say.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So my question is, do you think that there is a more of a silencing of our voice more, especially on different various platforms, right?
Yes. I think that it's because I don't know. You can think of a lot of different reasons, more benign and less benign, but I don't think that there's the same amount of respect that is accorded to Black content creators as opposed to others. Like, for example, I really like Joshua Citarella. It's not his fault. I went on his show. I think it's great. But he just got a write-up in in the New Yorker for a podcast that's been going for like 8 months or something like that, maybe coming up on a year. And they very quickly there was also a write-up of like what's his name, Adam Friedland, who I also like and think is funny. Like, this isn't shade, and he's talented, and you can make arguments about more for Adam Friedland because he was from such a famous podcast, and like it makes a little bit more sense. But Joshua Citarella, you're not going to see a write-up of other kinds of content creators. And I would argue someone like Crystal Ball is much more famous and makes much more of a splash on the left. And you're not going to see New York Magazine do a glowing story about like what's going on the left, because the narrative around like the Joe Rogan of the left, it's like it's very male and it's very white. And you're not going to see, how long has Katie Halper been in this game? You're not going to see a write-up about Abby Martin. You're not going to see a write-up about Ronnie Collick. You're not going to see a write-up about me. There was a Black woman at Teen Vogue who was trying to write a piece on me, just like there were many pieces written about Simone Sanders when she was national press secretary for Bernie Sanders. And it got killed. We did like 3 long interviews in the summer of 2020. And then she had to call me very sad and apologetic, saying that they killed her story. So for a whole mix of reasons, in terms of your substance and politics and because of your identity, I just don't think that if you don't fit the narrative scope of what the mainstream wants to cover and how they want to package you, then you're not going to get the same sort of notoriety. And then within the left, I think that you can be like a sort of radio voiced white guy, and everyone takes your opinions as authority. And when you have huge mistakes, like being wrong on force the vote, like there's no credibility hit for people like Sam Cedar, who I think it's not the be all end all that they were wrong about that, but it would be nice if there was some accountability. And if those of us who have shown more insight were sort of rewarded for that. So you just have to, that just is the way the world is. But I would say when I had a platform at Rising, it was very important to me to bring Sabby on and to bring Nick on and to bring people on when I could, because I know that I was given that opportunity by, rest in peace, Michael Brooks, who was one of the few sort of folks on the left who I thought genuinely saw and treated Black people as intellectually equal and having something to offer, and had a pattern of bringing new folks on the show. It wasn't all about like who already had clout and but was willing to bring new folks. He brought me on. He brought Malika Jabali on. Like, he was reading what people were writing in lefty papers and looking for good ideas and having folks on his show and giving folks a platform. And I tried to do that when I had the platform that I had and with what I have left. But that is not always an offering that's extended. I think we do have to prove ourselves harder. Like, look at how huge Sabby is. Like, look at what she's built for herself over the course of the last like year or two. And I don't hear her. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm wrong. No. I missed it. But has she been invited on Majority Report?
No, but she definitely should be.
Like, has she never been invited on the Young Turks?
None. No. There's the race aspect, because I'm gonna give you a very short example. I remember where I had on Afeni, our sister. I had her on, and before we went live, I had on an outfit just like this, but I had on a tie as well. And she goes, "Why are you dressed up?" And I said, "Because as a black man, if I'm not dressed up, I don't get taken as seriously as somebody who's white." And she goes, "Oh yeah, you're right about that. It's true."
Yeah, people want to say that stuff doesn't matter, but it does. You said that I'm tactful. I don't especially want to be tactful, and people in my real life would like laugh at the idea that I don't have a temper or whatever. But like, it's strategic. I did not yell at Sam Cedar in our conversation about Force the Vote, but he got upset about internet comments afterward where people were telling him that he had quote unquote lost the quote unquote debate and accused me of like screaming at him for 2 hours. Like, you can't win for losing. So like, yeah, you can't, I'm fired. And the narrative is that it's because I rolled my eyes. Well, what's his name is saying that you should kill homeless people in the air. And that doesn't get you fired. Robbie said, "Fuck you," and threw a pencil across the room and it didn't get him fired. Or he didn't say fuck you. He said, "I don't give a fuck." And threw a pen around across the room. So, people can cherry pick the examples they want to pick, but you're having any kind of emotional response will be weaponized against you.
Mm-hmm.
And I would argue, particularly if you are like what's his name? Matt Taibbi said I was fired because I was unprofessional. The free speech hero of the left wrote a piece when I was fired saying I basically deserved it because I was so unprofessional.
I'm going to emulate your tactfulness, and I'm not going to say exactly what I want to say. But the funny thing about that is every accusation is a confession.
It often is the case, but that's neither here nor there. I'm hoping Matt Taibbi will come back from his Rumspringa on the dark side and realize that he should be a reporter again with some credibility. The door is open to everybody, as far as I'm concerned, to get it right. But I do look at Sabby in particular because you can have plausible deniability if I don't invite this person or that person on because they're not big enough or blah blah blah. But Sabby is really impressed. Like, it's very impressive, and at a certain point, and you watch the kind of guests, they have all kinds of people on from nowhere and they never heard of, and
even me. Yeah.
No, but I think it's a real big tell when particularly like there's some of these shows where there's a real like subtext to who they'll have on and like who they think is like legitimate to have on. When Nick came on Rising, he lit it up. He lit Robbie up.
I know, it was great.
And Robbie was like I would bring him up again to come on, and everyone was like, he was not wanting to go toe to toe with Nick.
Oh.
Like, I would accept him, and like he would like magically not make it to the top of the segment list because he did an amazing job. And the audience loved him. The segment did well. Like, if capitalism were real, if we just follow the markets and let the markets talk, we would have had him on all the time because it would have been an easy decision. It made money for the company, but that's not how it works.
Yeah. I mean, I'm even getting to the point where I'm like, and so here's something a lot of people don't know is that I will email people to come on. Some people will look at your channel subscriber level, and they'll judge based off of that. And the thing is, like, it's not that they're saying it to you, but they're not responding. But then if you have a colleague that has a lot more subscribers and then they come on there and it's like, oh, okay, I see.
Yeah. I mean, like, of course that's an aspect, but that's why I'm using Savvy as an example, because like, look, people have constraints on their time and they're going to make assessments based on sort of like what is useful, to them. But that excuse just doesn't hold with Savvy. So there's something you asked me a question about whether or not race plays a role. I think that looking at how she's treated in particular, and gender, I would argue, is a real tell.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. So I'm gonna be honest with you. Yeah, we have to do twice as much to get half as far, and it continues. But I've seen how far you've come, and I am very proud of you. And you have done an amazing job. And I thank you for the contributions you have made, and also helping me to observe you so that I could be better.
Well, thank you, JB. That's very kind of you to say. And I am, very glad that Revolutionary Blackout Network is out there, and you guys have been such wonderful allies and partners over the years, and I've learned a lot from you. So thank you for having me tonight.
Thank you so very much. And everybody, if you guys have not already, you guys can actually catch Bad Faith on YouTube, as well as you can catch her streams also on her Patreon as well. So here's the link to Bad Faith. It's also linked down in the description below, so you guys can tune in to that as well. Look, and by the way, your latest interview with Amanda Seales was chef's kiss. It was great. So I thoroughly enjoyed that. And I just want to thank you so much for coming in and having a conversation with me on my own little channel. Thank you so very much to Miss Briahna Joy Gray. I hope to have you back on a lot sooner.
Of course. And we might have to do another one of those dating episodes soon.
You got my number.
All right, everyone. Take care.
Right. Take care. Bye-bye. All right, folks. So thank you so very much to Miss Briahna Joy Gray for joining me. God, it's been 2 years, I think, since she's last been on, maybe longer. But she is very busy, and she made time to come on here, which I am very gracious, and thank you so very much. Guys, go ahead and give a like to the stream if you guys have not already, and go ahead and share and subscribe if you have not already. If you found some value in our conversation. If you didn't find any value in our conversation, go ahead and give a thumbs down, because hey, it's a free country. Well, at least we thought it was. Go ahead. Well, thumbs up and thumbs down are free. So all you got to do is move your finger and click on whichever you want. But thank you so very much to everybody for tuning in. Before we get to the comments, because I know there's a lot of comments out there, what we're going to do is we're going to do a shout out to the patrons on Patreon, because you guys make this channel absolutely possible. So I just want to give you guys a thank you. And here are the tiers. We have Mega Jaybefaunters. We have Super Duper Jaybefaunters, Super Jaybefaunters, Jaybefaunters. Then we have Comrades, Solidarity, and JB members. And to all brand new members, I would like to say a big thank you, especially to the new members, Anthony Malecki, Daniel Kolewa, CL, and Michelle. Or is it pronounced Michele? I don't know. I'm thinking about the artist Michele. But thank you guys so very much. You literally keep on the lights on here. So thank you so very much. As an aside, my channel is demonetized. So if you like to support the channel, you can support via Patreon or PayPal. Thank you, thank you, thank you. So let's get into the comments in the chat. And I cannot wait to get into this as well, because, you guys have some things to say. Let's see. Just check the Rumble to see if we have any Rumble rants. Okay, so it looks like we do have quite a few people in the Rumble chat. Let me enlarge this just so that we can, hang on, let me just make sure I enlarge so that everybody can see. All right. That was a great conversation, was it? Always bringing the intellectual prowess, always bringing it. Thank you so much to Jimmy Apples saying, woo, great guest. What a show. Way to go, JB. Thank you so very much. Appreciate it very much. You guys are wonderful for, helping support the channel. So thank you very much for that. Appreciate it. So we're going to go into the rest of the chat here, and then we'll touch on some Rumble chats as well. Let me check to see the Kick to see if we have any gifted subs or anything like that. I don't think I've ever had one before, but we are also on Kick as well. So as far as gifted subs, I don't see anything as of yet, but we shall get there. Okay, so let's get into the rest of the chat. Let me see. Man, you guys were chatty today. Chatty. All right. Let me see. I want to get to this. And sorry, guys, I do not have a producer, so it's all me. This is a one-man operation, y'all. All right. So let me see here. Kime says, no, it does not face car forever. Thank you so very much. Oh, I forgot something. Hang on. And make sure to do this as well. Let me make sure I have. This is a bit of a house cleaning thing that I need to make sure that I get to. My apologies. I completely forgot, but I was just reminded. Okay. Let me see. Hold on. I'm coming. All right. So we have someone who is in need that we're going to try to see if we can get some help for. Here's a viewer. Support Daniel's journey to stability. So this is Daniel. He has only just 2% of his goal raised. So it says, hello, help get Daniel get back on his feet. It says, I'm reaching out with a heavy heart. Life is going to overwhelm me for me financially, and I'm struggling to stay afloat. He said he's facing over $3,000 in debt to his previous landlord, high monthly rent, utilities and bills, food insecurity, and then transportation costs to get back and forth to work. He says, my paycheck is simply not keeping up with the rising cost of living, and I feel like I'm drowning. The stress of this financial crisis has started to affect my mental health. I don't feel the joy I used to, and every day feels like a battle to just get by. And so he's asking for help to assist him with, to be able to get some assistance with, really just expenses to get through life at this point in time. So if you guys can, I put the link to his GoFundMe in the description. Of course, I'm very hyper focused on mutual aid. So if you guys can give any assistance to Daniel, it'd be very much appreciated as well. And I want to make sure I get to this as well, because I think there was another one. I want to make sure. Yes. And there was another person who is also in need of assistance as well. If you guys would like to assist with that, make sure to get to this person too. This person's name is Halo, Aspen's plight for the fight for my baby's life. So this one is only 22% at goal. And so it says, hello, Aspen, my daughter and fellow Assange activist, was arrested in Peach County, Georgia on the 20th of May. We are able to secure her bond for the 4th of June. She is now home in Oklahoma, where she waits to be indicted on charges that carry mandatory minimum of 33 years. Her crime: she has plans to attend a music festival in Florida with her best friend and his two friends. When her bestie and his girlfriend pulled out at the last minute, Aspen went with their friend David. He was described as a safe person by her trusted friend. Aspen is a high-functioning autistic. We rely on trusted friends quite often. Now that Aspen is adult, she lacks the discernment that most people take for granted. She sees only what is presented to her. So she went to the festival. On the way back, the RV was pulled over. The guy she was traveling with had a lot of drugs in his RV. It is customary in Peach County, Georgia, to arrest anyone else in the vehicle with the same charges as the person suspected of a crime. David, the owner of the RV, told the cops at the time of their arrest and the judge at the initial hearing that Aspen was not part of nor privy to his drug operation. And so this is an Assange activist as well. That was involved, unknowingly with somebody who actually had drugs in his car, and now she's being blamed for it as well. So they're trying to get the $7,500 down payment for her lawyer. So if you guys can help with that, that'd be very much appreciated as well, because I want to make sure that we get her the help that she needs as well. So here you guys go. That's also in the chat. So thank you guys so very much. We can help Aspen with her legal expenses. So let's get back to the chat, and let's talk to some people, some folks before we head on out. A non-user said, why head to head with Nick today? Sad face. First of all, I completely forgot that he was going to be live when I planned this, but also I went live at 6. Nick typically goes live at 7. So it was my fault. It was poor planning. I should have scheduled earlier or a little bit later, but I already had it set. And I've completely forgot until day of. So yeah, that was my fault. I will apologize to Nick and the background though. Travis Wolf says, I am yet to see Bree yet on a stream where she isn't gorgeous. What about me, travelers? Ain't I gorgeous? Ain't I fine? Yes, and we did talk about Zed Jelani. Let me see here. Jay says, at a crossroads, on side has got to decide who they hate the most and who hates them the most. Don't want to say we told ya so, but yeah. Let me see. Soli, is that pronounced it? I hope I pronounced it correctly. My apologies if I didn't. Hey everyone, I caught a live. Greetings to my ADOS FBA family, friends in the diaspora, and comrades in the struggle. Well, hello, Soli. Good to see you. Let's continue on. I want to get to people who I haven't spoken to yet. Jonathan says, I never miss a Bree appearance. Well, good to see you. Thank you so very much for tuning in as well. Let me see. Who else did we? We have Crom coming in saying that's nearly impossible with the followers of Abrahamic faith. They have a hole inside themselves because their faiths were stolen from earlier civilizations. I would have to research that, but I was raised evangelical, so I was told that was the beginning. But I could always be wrong. Austin says, hopefully the Red Liberation Youth will become free from corrupt politicians' hands. Yeah, hopefully. Let me see. Good to see Wardy coming in. Rondo says the casually bigoted. Interesting way to put it, but I kind of rock with that statement. The casually bigoted. Yeah, that's a good way of putting it, though, Rondo. I agree. Yeah, the casually bigoted. Roger Meadows says, Bree, there are black people who think they're above us simply because their ancestors were not slaves in this country. Yeah, there are some. Yeah. Amanda Seals was debating some of them on Jubilee, That was an interesting point too. Yeah, that's what I saw. I saw that too. I was just like, gosh, why are they using, the you guys and all of you basically separating themselves from the rest of us? It's very peculiar. Very peculiar. Heart on My Sleeve says the left has no future as long as we let center-right and right-wing media call and ish-libs identify as the left. So that's the thing. A lot of people don't realize, but liberals are right-wing. They're not the left. And people keep confusing that. And I really just want people to know that, no, liberals are not the left. And a lot of people who are on the right always call liberals the left. And I'm like, baby, no, they are on the right. They may be slightly to the left of you, but they are not on the left. It's like a plane. You have the far right side of the lane, which is the tip of the wing, but then you have a little bit left of that, which is in the center of the right wing. And it's like, baby, that's what y'all are. We're way the other side on the left wing, on the left part of the left wing. You know what I mean? So, it's like the gulf is so wide. The distance between liberal and ultra conservative is very short. We are far and away much more distant to the left than liberals. So I hope people really understand that. Matt says Brie is Superwoman. I'm not your Superwoman. Oh my God, don't get me started. Oh my goodness. Early in the morning, I put breakfast at your table and make sure that your coffee has its sugar and cream. Oh my goodness. Look, don't get me started on a Karen White song. I'm having a black ass moment right now. Don't get me started. All right. Let me see. A non-user says Kirk was totally elevated by the GOP machine. So they says Dr. Jared Ball from I Mix What I Liked It, an amazing breakdown on the new Superman movie. Very interesting. Very interesting. All right, let's continue on. I want to make sure I get the people who I have not got to. I want to make sure I got to people who I haven't got to respond to yet. I'm trying to be fair, because there's a lot of people who we don't get to hear from, especially on times like this. So maybe, just maybe, they might be trying to respond. Okay, on the kick side, we have W. Dill coming in. All right, thank you so very much to W. Dill. Robeson says he has replaced his campaign staff with Citigroup provided list yet. Are you talking? Are you talking about Eric Adams? Did you see when he came down the stair steps and they put his big, huge, blown up picture of his mother right next to him? Like, bro, just come out to the podium and say, "All right, peace, I'm out. I ain't doing this no more." It ain't got to be that big of a deal. Like, bro, this is not an airport. You do not have to announce your departure. It's crazy. Anyway, Helpful Harm says AOC was a hipster that was more divisive. I think it is the difference from Obama. Interesting. Okay. All right. Sean Miller says Zoltan? I don't know what that means. But thank you very much for coming in. Black Unit Griffin says interesting stream. Thank you very much. I hope it was interesting in a good way. All right, we have CBC Water coming in saying happy Friday at JB and Joy Briahna. Thank you so very much for that. We have Zineb. Good to see you, Zineb. She says, can't watch right now, but I'm going to circle back, but I wanted to drop and give a like. Can't wait to watch. Thank you very much. Good to see you, Zineb. Say hello to everybody at Status Quo for me. I had Jordan Sheraton on about 2 weeks ago, something like that. So, yeah. Laura says, Bree. All right. And we're going to do just a couple more because I want to make sure that, I get this under an hour 45. But Black Unit Griffin says, notice how all that stuff is censored now. Why is that? Because there's a genocide going on. Holly Horn says, Briahna, good to see you. All right. Man, you guys are making me jealous. I wish I was in the chat right now. Let me see. QB Socialista says, LOL Bree. Brian says, maybe Gustavo Petro's way of getting around is right. President Petro, he's starting to call out Israel quite a bit, which I'm just like, hey, I'm all for it. I'm hoping that more countries will do the same. You know, I want to have more conversations about what BRICS countries are doing, because they have more of an infrastructure to be able to do something versus the Alliance of the Sahel States, the AES. And the Alliance of the Sahel States consists of Mali, Burkina Faso, and Niger. They're creating a huge bloc. I think it has the potential to be, rival that of BRICS because of how many resources they actually have. But I would like to see some strength come from them as well. But they have to get their floor together. They have to get their foundation together first. Anton says, "You clever man, had this up because you had this ungodly skilled woman on." Oh my goodness. You guys are hilarious. $37 trillion to war for profit, genocide, and the greedy said boycott work and disrupt his post by calling him a liar is holding on to the truth. Thank you so very much. Dr. Woe says JB and Briahna, thank you so very much to see you here. All right. Mm-hmm. Zeneb, you win. You win. Yeah, those protests were insufferable. My gosh. Jonathan, thank you very much. Edward says in France, when Macron wanted to raise the retirement age, the people had a revolution when Macron had to leave the country for a while. They scared the president. This is what we need to do. Yeah. Maybe Germany can take Trump back. Who knows? Okay. So Laura says, since your question, is it possible to explain the economic super exploitation of Black people without framing it as identity politics? I think it is. I have to chew on that for a second. Without framing it as identity politics? I think so. I think so. Yeah. But that's just my initial chewing of it at first. So let me see. Oof. Welch's Grape says, what the F is going on with Glenn Greenwald? I don't know. Let's continue on. Let me see here. Man, this was a wonderful conversation. I'm glad I had this conversation. Let me see. Okay, so for the most part, yeah, I touched with everybody who's been very vocal in the chat for the most part. I don't think I missed anybody. I want to make sure hey, Willie Bradshaw, good to see you. Says, I caught your live streaming on Twitter. Sorry, but I dead named Twitter all day long. Me too. It's still Twitter. It's always going to be Twitter. It will never be anything else. I don't care what Elon says. Elon can go kick rocks, boulders, pebbles, whatever. I don't care. He says, I will have to rewatch, convince Briahna Joy Gray to run for president. Oh my goodness, that would be interesting to see. Wapakant Cohen says, JB, good to see you in here. All right. And Chris C says, ouch. Yeah. I think we're pretty much through. Michael says, JB, some American freedmen prefer to keep their broken economic system intact after receiving cash payment reparations for slavery. How do you shift that thinking? Easy. Just tell them, like, look, we can get reparations all day, but if you don't change the system, look at white people. Look at what they're going through. How has capitalism helped, majority of white people? Are, most of the poor white people, are they poor just because they're lazy? You know what I mean? So the thing is, like, when it comes to reparations and arguing for reparations, the issue is that I can put clean clothes on, but if I don't take a shower, that stink is going to come through. See what I mean? Like, you can give me clean clothes, but I haven't taken a shower yet. So yeah, it'll mask the smell for a short while, but the stench is still underneath. So this is why it has to be a twofold process. It has to be completely changing the entire system and reparations. Reparations is the cherry on top. Reparations is the debt owed, but yes, it's like you need to have a foundation as well. I am not going to build a house on sand. I wanted to build it on a rocky foundation, on a foundation that is solid. The problem is that some people want to build their house on sand, and then by the time that house drifts away into the ocean, they're like, God damn, what happened? Well, you built it on sand. It was a nice house. It had 2 floors, nice attic, crown molding, bay windows, the whole shebang. But you build it on sand. And the thing is, it's like, do we deserve that house? You damn sure we do. Damn right we do. But it also must be built on a proper foundation. Because if you keep the system intact, they're going to exploit your reparations all the way from you. And I'm not saying that we shouldn't. Just like we keep up the fight for healthcare for all, reparations for freedmen, that fight must continue so that when we do finally change the system and create a brand new one, it's still in the front of everybody's minds. Everybody goes, oh yeah, there's a debt that's owed. Okay, let's make sure we pay that debt too. Because us constantly talking about reparations is also a reminder so that when the system finally actually is rebuilt, then it's like, oh yeah, they were trying to do that all, in the old system. Now that we have the new system, we can actually do it now. I hope that's a sufficient answer, but that's the way I see it. But thank you very much for the question. All right, good to see you, Sensei. Okay, so yeah. Anton says, right on, JB, don't just acknowledge your crew, challenge sometimes. Yeah, challenge sometimes. Absolutely. So it's time for me to head on out. It's almost dinner time. I got to go. And it's my cheat meal day. So I get to have something that I'm not supposed to have because I've been good the entire week. So, guys, thank you so very much for tuning in. This was a great conversation. I want to thank Briahna Joy Gray for joining me. I'm going to put the link to her YouTube channel in the chat once again. Her channel is once again called Bad Faith Podcast. You guys can also tune in to her, throughout the week, so you guys can actually watch that. And I just want to thank her for having me on. And you guys, take care of yourselves because that is very important. So I'm going to head on out. Thank you very much. Water your plants, water yourselves, leave the world better than you found it. Do all the things if you got them, and please continue to push for change, not just with signs and slogans, but like Kimberly Elise's what she said in the movie, like what Kimberly Elise said in the movie John Q to her husband on the phone. John, do something. We need to do something. All right. All right. I love you guys for watching. Mwah, forehead kisses. And you guys are going to have yourself a good night. I can just feel it. All right, everybody. Take care. Thank you so much for watching. And I appreciate it from the top and bottom of my heart. If you'd like to see any more, you can look